Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to jump right into original sin number 2, right? The last issue ended with the Watcher dead, his eyes gone, and multiple teams mobilizing. So now the question is, where does the trail lead? What secrets are surfacing, and who's pulling strings behind the scenes? Let's walk through number 2 together, pick out the clues, and see where this cosmic detective story is starting to spread its wings. Before we start, I want you guys to tell me how it's going, how these videos are doing. Even if you just click on it for a second, even if you're just in this first minute, leave me a little bit of feedback. Say, hey, your microphone doesn't sound good. Hey, emphasize these points in your voice. Hey, how's it going? Do you like spicy foods? Just a little, something. Before we dig into the fresh pages, we're going to do a quick recap, right? So Uatu the Watcher was murdered. His observatory on the moon was breached, and his eyes are gone. Nick Fury gathers heroes, parallel teams like Black Panther and company. You got Doctor Strange and the Punisher, etc., 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 etc. What does that word even mean? Etc. Like, where did that come from? What's the etymology of it? Whatever. The teams, they begin digging their own paths. The first issue seeded a bunch of threads, the missing eyes, the cryptic betrayals, odd monsters, secret agendas. And in number 2, those seeds sprout more. We start chasing monsters. We start asking which monster, which realm, who is evolving. And we begin to see that the scope of this mystery might be much, much bigger than a murder. All right, let's go panel by panel. The issue opens with Emma Frost, Ant-Man, Scott Lang's Ant-Man, not Hank Pym's, and Black Panther. They're descending into Subterranea, like the caverns. It's caverns filled with moloids, right? And I figure I should explain what a moloid is. Well, moloids are a race of, they're not humans, but they're humanoid, right? They've got legs, arms. They were created by the deviants to be slaves. The deviants basically took one of their old enemies that they defeated and genetically engineered them into slaves, and now they live in Subterranea. That's all I could gather off of a quick Google search, because keep in mind, I don't even really know what the hell a moloid is. So we're figuring this out together. I just figured put that little bit of, something in there so that we all learn. They are investigating a monster graveyard. The implication, these subterranean creatures, these giant monsters have been dying underground, dumped for some time. It's not random. Someone's disposing of evidence. Someone's killing these big things and then getting rid of the bodies in Subterranea. Emma's uneasy, right? Panther is cautious. Scott is nervously curious. The trio works with incomplete info but driven by the trail. This is where the parallel investigations metaphor starts to stretch. You see characters doing detective work kind of like in their own way. So in my script, I wrote little theory story breakdown beats, right? Let's call them clues. Clues of thematically what the story means, right? And so throughout the episode, there will be little clues. And the first clue is that the monster graveyard kind of suggests that the Watcher's killer isn't just after him, but has been doing this for a while, right? The eyes are probably just one piece in a larger machine. So we cut to another thread. Doctor Strange and the Punisher are traversing a weird alternate dimension. It's the realm of man-eating shadows, or something like it. They find more dead monsters. In one corpse, they recover a large, green, glowing bullet embedded in the skull. Punisher extracts it. Right? He's essentially like, what is this? This is crazy. Right, the Punisher kind of seems agitated. He's essentially, they've been going back and forth, him and Doom, and he's like, hey man, I just need you to be quiet because I need to think, and if you give me a second, I'll find the killer. And that's when he picks up this giant green bullet. The green bullet is a big piece. It suggests that the weapon used wasn't just like a regular gun. It ties the murders of monsters to the killing of Uatu himself, right? Meanwhile, in the New York area, one of the mindless ones, right, starts rampaging, but it's not acting mindless exactly. It shows signs of sentience or struggle and ends up committing suicide using the ultimate nullifier, which I don't know much about the ultimate nullifier, but it's a big deal apparently. If anybody knows about the ultimate nullifier, just leave that in the comments, like a story where I can read and figure that out. Granted, if I'm not still just speaking to the void. Anyway, when the Avengers arrive, they contain the scene, and they declare it a crime scene. Fury insists on taking control, right? And here's another clue, right? It's where the mystery kind of deepens. The mindless one that kills itself, it's kind of a hint, right? These creatures may be evolving, changing, becoming more than they once were, and their link to the stolen eye and the murder is becoming more direct, right? The issue gives us a peek behind the curtain of villainy. We see the orb again, and Exterminatrix appears. They're connected, orchestrating things. The orb claims he was hired by Dr. Midas to infiltrate Uatu's observatory and handle some theft, right? But he denies being the killer. Also, the orb uses the stolen eye as a weapon, right? He weaponizes it, turning it into a bomb. You also get more of the cryptic conversations, the ominous supervillain banter, storyline threads that feel concealed. That's part of the writer's method, drip feed, just a little at a time. And another one of these clues, right? The idea that the eye is more than a trophy, that it could be weaponized, activated, used to manipulate minds or reveal hidden data, becomes more central, right? Also, the orchestration by Midas and use of intermediaries suggests that the mastermind is pulling strings from behind the scenes, right? Someone else, right? And towards the end, the teams converge, right? Tensions mount. The villain's base is attacked. Avengers enter. The stolen eye's power is demonstrated. The orb reveals his eye-powered bomb. His eye bomb. That sounds like some Apple sells. New, the eye bomb. Attack your enemies Apple way. And then when it blows up, it's blue or green, whatever Apple's thing is. I have an Android. Shut up. Right. So he reveals his eye-powered bomb. And the story drops a reveal. The weapon used against Uatu and the monsters are gamma-irradiated bullets. That draws like a line. The killer has been using a certain kind of weapon on multiple scales. The issue ends on tension, not resolution, not mystery solved, no answers. It's expanding, not coming together. And another little note. This is kind of classic event structure. Each issue reveals more than it resolves. You now have multiple interlocking mysteries. Like, who is Midas? What's his endgame? What is the eye's true function? How are the monsters tied in? Who's evolving? And how far does the conspiracy go? So, if you're like me and you don't know much about comics, these are main questions, right? Like, if you just jumped in, like I'm doing, straight into Original Sin, it's... who is Midas? Who is the orb? Who is Exterminatrix? Who are these people that we're seeing? These are obviously villains, but are they big players? Are they Thanos level? Or are they more small-time players? I'm assuming as we go on, those things do get answered, right? So I want to pause and talk what's really going on under the surface in number 2, right? Thread weaving and multi-front mystery. What's fun about Jason's writing, and it's kind of sometimes messy, is that he keeps weaving threads. He doesn't just let one team have the spotlight. This is the subterranean mission, the magical dimensional mission, the street level monster fight. They all interlock. It gives the story breadth, but also the risk of scatter, right? It can also seem too big and too here, there, everywhere, as opposed to a to B to C storyline, right? You've got to track who is chasing what and why. And while that can seem like a detriment to a story, I think it gives it character, right? Because you can read this over and over again. I think I read this one a couple of times just to pick out what was going on and where it was happening. Granted, I still missed so many things, I think. But the show must go on, right? The mindless ones, right? They're not so mindless anymore, right? So they were creatures of chaos, right? And now they're starting to show signs of awareness, self-harm, inner conflict, right? And that evolution is a metaphor, right? Secrets corrupt, power, it's going to transform. It suggests that whatever is happening is not just external, but internal. Things are going to mutate. Things are mutating, right? The stolen eye becomes a central motif. In number 2, we see the eye as more than a relic. It's a weapon, a key, a bomb, a DVR, an eyeball. This is going to tie it back to original sin's core, right? Knowledge is power. Being able to see, to record, to unearth truth can be more destructive than any sword or gun. We see clearly that like groups are being manipulated, right? The hired work from the orb, the hidden agendas of Midas. Trust is getting slippery. As a reader, you're kind of questioning, who's lying, who's covering, who's playing both sides. We can assume that Nick Fury is playing both sides. We can assume that Iron Man's probably got a secret agenda. Most of the other heroes, like Thor, he's very blunt and forward. Spider-Man is too honest. Captain America is all about honesty. So it just seems like those two, they're the walkers of that line of doing what they think is best for the greater good, the better good. Yeah. So what does number 2 do well, and where does it struggle, right? What I think it does well is the atmospheric escalation. The issue builds tension, weirdness, and a nice mystery rather than just throwing new villains. There's stronger hints and clues, the green bullet, evolving monsters, the weaponization of the eye. These are solid threads that you can tangibly follow. And with better character moments, especially in smaller teams, you see how characters react under weird circumstances. And then, oh my God, the art, it continues to shine. It shifts between dark caves, dimensional weirdness, and city fight scenes. They feel visually coherent, right? I'm something of an artist myself. I draw. I used to draw a lot. I don't so much anymore. And seeing the panels, seeing these comic books, the level of detail that goes into each individual panel. Just looking at the page of this small 1-inch by 3-inch square of, right now the page is open to the orb, and he's, it's a bomb full of secrets, blah, blah, blah. But the way that the orb, not the orb, the eyeball casts light above, or the way that the eyeball casts light below the orb itself, and the hood that he's wearing, the detail, it's mind-blowing how someone, I don't know if it's a team or if it's just one man. I doubt it's one man. I think he must pass it down a line. He must do the original sketches. Someone adds color, someone adds shading, someone adds value, contrast. It's incredible. But beyond all of that, we have the expanding stakes, right? You sense that this is not just about one murder, but about cosmic balance, hidden wars, and weaponized secrets, especially no spoilers, but obviously keep a lookout for Nick Fury and Iron Man. I don't know if I'm going to be giving too much away by saying this because I have read ahead, but I imagine that people are going to be watching this following along. They're by nature, they're always walking that fine line, right? And what doesn't quite land yet, I would say, and it's not that it's bad, it's just that it doesn't land until you further read through the story, is the pacing and the fragmentation, right? With 3 or more simultaneous threads, some feel shortchanged, like you don't get enough time with them. You may get more payoff in later issues than you do here. The emotional payoff is limited. We see movement, but few deep emotional beats. And then you get a risk of I guess I would call it clue overload. When there are many clues, there's misdirection, red herrings, right? It can overwhelm or confuse people. Imagine being a 12-year-old kid and this story's going on, I am having a hard time being like, all right, what's going on? Who's happening? Where? This is what? A kid is going to, maybe not read through to the next issue. And it's very possible that, while Marvel tries to gather all ages, this could just be an adult-driven story, and we still don't get answers. Some readers may feel that not enough happens in this issue. I mean, it's a risk in all mystery arcs. Issues need to balance the payoff and the momentum of it, right? But all of that aside, number 2 is doing what a second issue in a crossover should: complicating the mystery, raising stakes, deepening the web. Given what we know so far, here's what I'm watching, though. This is what I think will pay off from number 2 into future issues, right? The weapon source of the weapon / sourcing of the gamma bullets, right? Knowing the bullets are irradiated means someone has technology or magic to inflict cosmic level damage. That path is going to lead to the reveal of the murder, I think. I know. The eye's full capability. The eye is clearly more than just a recording device. I expect activation, memory projection, secrets dumped. It's going to cause mass amounts of chaos. And then the monster trails. How many worlds, dimensions, subterranean corners are involved. The graveyards might map to the murderer's path. We're going to see things start to evolve, things that come out, secrets. And these, I think this storyline does lead into Marvel's Avengers and the new Avengers of like 2015-ish, right? And there's some crazy stuff that comes out of that story. Right? As far as I'm aware, the eye does somehow leak secrets, and it reveals the secret of how Tony Stark, being on the Illuminati, used Doctor Strange to wipe Captain America's mind and make him forget that he was on the Illuminati because they had to stop the incursions. And so now the eye reveals that secret, and Cap is all just a little weird about Tony, and then it causes a big kerfuffle. I don't really know how we get there from here, but I guess we're going to find out. For me, Original Sin number 2 is a successful second act. It doesn't resolve much, sure, right? But it deepens the mystery and widens the playing field. If I were grading it, I'd lean to maybe a solid B, maybe a B+. If the next issue pays off everything that it hints at, then it's definitely a B+. But the foundations are strong. It's got good bones. But the test, right? The inspector that's coming over to look and give a test is whether all these threads are coherent. If you like cosmic mysteries, multi-threaded storytelling, and slow reveals, this is right in your wheelhouse. If you're watching along or listening before you go to bed, which is kind of the main point of this, I want people to just kind of like put it on, go to bed. I would say listen carefully, keep notes, revisit panels. This is one you'll want to reread after the full event to see how every piece fits. And I do have to say, I go back through it as I read the next one. I went back and I looked at, how things kind of interlocked. But that's where it ends, right? So that wraps up Original Sin number 2. Next time, we're going to jump straight into issue number 3, where things will start to snap together, right? And where more secrets will be exposed that not everyone is ready for. But if you like that breakdown, hit the like button, drop a comment, and let me know which clue in number 2 do you think is the most dangerous if it's revealed. And make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next part. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.